Hello, this is Manny Ramos, your host of Rise Up, Real Issues and Stories of Every One of Us podcast. But first, let me talk about who we are. I'm Manny Ramos, a board member of PNAA and a past president of the Philippine Nurses Association of Central Florida. I'm a professor of nursing at Valencia College in Orlando and an adjunct faculty at William Patterson University. With me today is my co-host, Mindy Ofiana. Mindy.
Thank you, Manny. Hello, everyone. I'm Mindy Ofiana, Legislative Committee Chair, Corresponding Secretary for PNAA Foundation, and a past president of PNA Southern California, and an adjunct professor of Charles R. Drew University, Department of Medicine and Sciences. Manny?
Thank you, Mindy. I would like to introduce our guest tonight, Andy Cuadra, a 22-year-old nursing student who currently attends Hunter Bellevue School of Nursing. She started nursing school last semester and is expected to graduate in May 2022. Andy was born and raised in the Philippines, and her family migrated to the United States in 2013. Andy, welcome to Rise Up.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Mindy. Hello, Manny. Thank you for having me. How are you guys?
Hi, Andy. Good evening to you.
Good afternoon to you guys.
May you share with us where you grew up in the Philippines?
I was born and raised in Iloilo City, specifically in Mandurriao neighborhood, if you guys are familiar. I've lived there for 13 years, and up until 2013, I moved to New York, and then only recently, around November, I moved to New Jersey, Clifton. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what made you decide to move to the United States?
It's a bunch of reasons, but this also ties with my why I chose nursing. So both my parents have a business in the Philippines, and you know how businesses are, they come and go, it goes up and down. So business didn't go so well, so we needed more options, to keep our family well and healthy. So my mom decided to move here to New York and asked help for her sister, and eventually we moved here. And through that process of moving, it really had a toll on me, because as a teenager, I was 13, all my friends were there, all my family were there. It was really distressing emotionally. So I decided not to go the business route, but we moved because business wasn't doing so well. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I can understand where you're coming from. So why did you get into nursing, especially during a pandemic?
Oh, yes. I actually started nursing. I got into my nursing program back at 2019, and this is my senior year already. So tying back to why we moved here, my parents were businessmen and stuff. Because of that emotional distress I had as a young kid, I was like, business is not for me. It's not stable. So I wanted stability. And ever since I was a little girl, I was always interested in science, like chemistry, living environment, or science. I was always into that. I was never good at history or English. So, and then on top of that, my grandmother and my mom built a nursing school back in Iloilo, Philippines. So we have a small nursing school. So every time after school, my mom would pick me up, and while she was working in that nursing school, I would just be around her, and I was already exposed to the anatomy. There were skeletons in the classroom. There were already posters. So I was already exposed to that type of environment. So I was already interested in the human body is kind of cool. And then growing up as a Filipino, I only had two routes. It's either engineering or like somewhere in healthcare. So
Uh-huh.
again, I was already exposed to healthcare, and growing up, my grandparents were sick, so we would go in and out the hospitals. I get to see how nurses work, that they were always there for the patient. So I kind of got to see how nurses are, and I was like, nursing's not a bad choice. So it seemed that everything pointed at nursing while growing up. So
Yeah.
that's why.
So how are you now
Nice.
at nursing school?
Honestly, I've been doing fairly good. Yeah. I'm good in all my classes. Well, decent. I passed all my classes. Studying might be like a lot of work, but I've adjusted in how I studied because I'm a senior now, so I've adjusted to that. And school's about to start next week, so I'm slowly prepping and like getting back to the mindset of studying like 5 hours a day and stuff like that. But yeah.
So you're in your senior year.
Mhm.
You're about to graduate.
Mhm.
How do you feel? Are you excited?
I'm definitely scared to enter the nursing world, but I'm more excited than scared. That's because last summer, actually, that just passed, I had the opportunity to be a nurse extern at a level 1 trauma center. So I got to see the med-surg unit, the ICU, ER. So that kind of scared me how different real life nursing is from nursing school. So I felt like as soon as I step into the unit, I wouldn't feel prepared, but also the excitement of like learning more things in the floor. But it's a mix of both, but more excitement.
So you said that was last summer. So that was also when COVID was like
Yes.
well, it wasn't the upswing and
Yes.
right? So how was that for you?
It was definitely scary because we were allowed to go in and out COVID rooms. So I would be with a nurse and she would tell me, "Oh, can you give this tray to that room?" And it was and half the floor was already COVID patients. So each nurse would have like 2 COVID patients already. It was scary, but then I was in full gear, a gown, gloves, like everything on PPE. And eventually, like, I kind of just got used to it and stopped being scared. But it was definitely a shock because I was like, I don't want to bring anything home. I don't want to get sick myself. But then I saw how the nurses worked and they were fine and I trusted them and it was good. Yeah, it was a great experience.
Wow. How was the learning environment or teaching during that period of time that you're in your clinical area and experiencing the fear of, oh my goodness, I might catch COVID-19? How's your learning experience? Was it productive or?
Are we talking about my externship like outside of school or clinicals with the school?
Either way, clinical is, I would rather focus on the clinical practice because you're and the external is, you're kind of part of the team already. You're like the employee, if you will, right? If you're called a nurse extern in that hospital. So as a clinical practice, when you're a student, when how was learning experience for you?
It was definitely hindered back. Like it felt like the nurses were scared to let us do stuff or like teach us stuff or go inside a patient's room. It was definitely hindered compared to pre-COVID times. So every clinical I had during school, and we were fortunate enough to have like hospital setting. we were most of the time just shadowing the nurse or just watching what she does instead of like actually doing something. It definitely hindered our learning experience, but we kind of just, as a class, we just accepted what it was because, you know, we are in a world pandemic.
Mm-hmm. So I'm interpreting that this was due to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
This change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you mind me asking if you got vaccinated?
Oh, yes, I'm fully vaccinated and boosted.
Okay.
Yes.
How is that for the rest of your class? Is it pretty much the same as far as a viewpoint for being vaccinated as a nursing student?
Um, as a class, I think it's mandatory for school to
Oh,
be
okay.
nursing school to be
Okay.
vaccinated unless it's a religious like hindrance.
Exemption.
Yes. But for the people that I talk to often in my nursing class, everybody is with vaccination, everybody's pro, and everybody's vaccinated and boosted. So in terms of that, it's okay. But my other friends outside of the nursing school, I have some friends that are anti-vaxxers, and yeah, so I just have to deal with that. Yeah.
Does that
So you just mentioned, I'm
Go ahead,
sorry,
Mindy?
you have a follow-up, Manny? Oh, all right. So you mentioned something about there seems to be, for the lack of a better term, inadequate learning for you because of the COVID situation. How did the school compensate so that the learning experience will still prepare you as a registered
Mhm.
nurse in that outside of the classroom?
So on top of the clinical in-person experience that we had, we also had sim virtual. It's like an app on the computer, and then we're able to like take care of the patient like by clicking, like, you know, it's like a window browser. So that on top of the clinicals, um, and then we just do a lot of practice questions. But in terms of patient care, it's in-person clinical setting, and then the window browser that I was just talking about, the simulation, the sim simulation. Oh, sorry. Also on top is the lab. Like we would go into lab and we would have a mannequin, and then we would practice CVAD dressing, IV insertion, and many more. So those are the top three.
I see.
With this simulated experiences that you were getting, in replacement of or I guess to supplement what you were missing from the clinical, how was that? How were those learning experiences for you?
Personally, I didn't like it because I feel like it's very it's unrealistic, and I don't know, I feel like I just didn't learn as much as I should compared to being with a real person face to face, because it's all scripted. Like that application is scripted, and I just didn't learn as much as compared to being face to face with a patient.
Yeah. So, as a nursing student, what do you feel about all of this COVID stuff that's happening, hindering your learning experience, uh, maybe not preparing you well to the outside world? What do you feel about that?
Um, as a nursing student, I'm honestly terrified because you know, I'm young and this is like my first pandemic in my lifetime. As soon as I graduate, I don't know how COVID will evolve with a new variant or like a new flu. So it's a really scary like outlook in the future. But at the same time, as a nurse, we need to be competent, we need to adjust to what we're dealing with. And honestly, I've seen nurses work, and it's kind of crazy how flexible you guys are and how everything is just thrown at nurses, but they're still able to work very flexible. So that's what I'm trying to be when I graduate and as soon as I pass the NCLEX and being on the floor. But as a student, it's scary to see. But as I see nurses do do the job that they're doing, it makes me feel better that if they can do it, I can do it. So.
I see.
So this spring semester is your last semester in nursing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and you've been back to clinical since last semester, or how long have you been back to clinical as a student?
My last clinical was probably November, and my break is actually 4 weeks. So I'm still on break, but I start clinical again in 2 or 3 weeks. But I haven't had clinical experience this whole month.
Right. But
Mm-hmm.
last semester in the fall, you were in the hospital, though, right? For your clinical experiences,
Let me
or was it still
recall.
simulated
Oh no, it was all in person.
in person?
Yes,
Back to in
it was all in
person.
person. Yes. Let me recall. I think I had psych clinicals at a psychiatric ward in Gracie School, here in New York City, and we had like the full-on experience on top of the supplemental simulation and lab. So I got to learn more because of the in-person.
I see. You must have read in newspapers with regards to some of the nurses that have been working in the emergency department or critical care area that are resigning because of what they are experiencing at the bedside, or changing careers to from nursing to whatever. Is that dissatisfying you or demotivating you as a nursing student?
Um, I never really thought about it, but I've seen news that more nurses have resigned because of the work, more work that they had to do. But I don't think that ever made me think, oh, I shouldn't be a nurse anymore because all the nurses are resigning. I never really thought like that. And on top of that,
That's good.
half the nurses that were resigning were unvaccinated too. So they were the ones that were let off of work. And I think the nurses that resigned, like personally, were burnt out, right? They were burnt out. But I already knew that nursing is not an easy job. So it didn't really scare me to think, oh, I shouldn't be a nurse. Because I'm so close. Like I'm right here. I'm right there. Just take the NCLEX and, and that's it. That's the end goal. Yeah.
You sound excited to entering the workforce.
I am.
Now you have this, you have this one semester though that's left. What course is this gonna be? Which nursing course?
I have med-surg too, so that focuses on like ICU. I have an NCLEX review class. I have a geriatrics class, and the last one is leadership. It's like just an extra
It's
class.
gonna be a very intensive last semester.
Yeah,
Are you
med-surg
excited?
too. I'm scared. If I'm not gonna lie, I'm scared because when I entered nursing, my first nursing class was like pathophysiology, and that was like, it humbled me. Like that was like my first C in like any class in my student career per se. And I was just so like burnt out. I didn't know how to study, but I had upperclassmen that helped me, like, oh, this is what you do. This is how you study. This is how you time manage. So that really helped me a lot. But because of the online learning, it definitely helped more because I had, I think, 2 semesters of fully online. So I had more time to just sit and study. And because I go to a commuter school, I would waste about like 3 hours of commuting, like just in general, like just a round trip. So that already takes a lot of like effort and time. But because I stay at home, listen to lecture via Zoom, I feel like I was able to focus more. Yeah, but this semester is all in person, so it's a new transition. So let's see how I'll be in this new transition of in person again. Yeah.
That's it. How are your fellow classmates or students handling training during the pandemic? And have any of them reconsidered being a nurse due to the situation we're in?
So I do have a big class. There's like 100 of us, so I can't really speak for everybody. But in my small circle of nursing friends, none of them really said, "Oh, I don't want to be a nurse anymore." This is scaring me. Like honestly, I feel like we were more encouraged to work. Like in my circle of friends, we're actually really excited to graduate. Scared, but excited. So I'm lucky enough to be surrounded with this type of energy that also, also makes me want to do better and stay better.
So, Andy, when you were at the hospital during the height of COVID and working there, even as you said you were an extern, and also when you went back, right, as a student for your clinical, uh, what do you think the nurses were feeling? Were you able to talk to some of them and how they are in relation to taking care of patients with COVID and what was going on around them?
They were definitely thankful that we were there to reach helping hand, but there are also some nurses that love nursing students because they're able to like teach them, because some nurses love to teach and
Right.
love to like show us new stuff, and there are some nurses that just want to focus on their work, which is totally fine. I get it, because being a nurse is not easy and each minute counts. You got to give the
Right.
meds, you got to help the patients. But overall, I think the nurses that I've met were thankful that we were there, because we were there to like help them, we were there to assist them, even just to grab something from a supply closet. They were all like they were already thankful. So it was good that we were there with them and helping them. And they would always say that we're going to be the future, because next year I'm going to be working with them. So they're very welcoming.
Have you ever considered already at this time what area of nursing you're going to work once you graduate and become licensed?
No, but I'm open to all. But I am skewed towards ICU or ER. Like I was fascinated when I was in the ICU during my externship. I was really like fascinated by the nurses. They were very, can I say the term badass? Like I feel like feel like they were working as doctors. Like they were nurses and doctors. Like they were just like on top of everything. And I think ICU nurses are really cool. I'm definitely skewed toward ICU, but obviously as a new grad, I don't think I can get in ICU like that, but I will work for it. Yeah.
Did you see a lot of COVID patients when you were in the ICU?
Yes. During my externship, it was on August, like around August. And in that floor, there were probably like 15 patients where I was, and half of the patients were COVID patients, and all of them all unvaccinated, which is really sad to see.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you're getting support, right? What other support from family, mentors, classmates are you getting have impacted you the most?
Obviously, yes, my classmates. My family is a huge factor to that support that I have, because sorry, as mentioned before, my mom and her mom made a nursing school back in the Philippines, and my mom already knows the ins and outs of being a nurse, so she supports me 100%. Miss Joy Garcia, she is now my mentor, and she was the one who introduced me to you guys, so thank you for that. I feel like I have her support, and even my aunt. My sister is always saying like, oh, you need to eat, because I keep forgetting to eat while I'm studying. So I feel like my family, my friends are always supporting me. And I also have high school friends that actually get mad every time like I'm not able to go out and see them because like I'm studying. But over time they realize how serious I am, and then like how passionate I am, that I want to focus in school and stuff. So I also have their support. So I'm very fortunate that everywhere I look, I'm always getting supported and stuff.
So when you go back, right now we're having this wave, right, of this variant, the Omicron, and you're gonna be going back to clinical again.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any concerns that you have
Honestly,
based on what you're hearing
no.
from the news?
Honestly, what I've heard from the news, that Omicron is very fast spreading, but it's very less deadly. So I'm not really worried, because again, going back to that externship, I learned a lot from that externship, like being in and out in like COVID patients room. Just as long as you have the right PPE, you will be fine, and correct hand hygiene, and always sanitizing. So through that experience, I'm not really as scared to be in a clinical rotation with COVID patients. Yeah.
Nice. Do you think it was justifiable for a hospital or an organization to let go nurses who are unvaccinated?
Um. hmm. I think. Oh wow, this is very controversial. Um. I think it is justifiable, because as nurses, we learn about the immune system. We learn about the vaccines that we have to take in order to be in school, in order to be at work. Like we take the Hep B vax, we take the flu shot every year. I think because the world is always changing, that this new like virus will become history from 10 years from now. So I think the COVID vax would be like a requirement now for you to go to school or go to work. So I think it is justifiable, because you need to be flexible. Like the world doesn't stop, it's just gonna keep going. So I feel like you just have to adjust to it, because we're living in it. And yeah, like I think it is justifiable.
So we've seen that pattern, and I'm sure you're very aware of it too, that of those who get sick from COVID, um, majority of those who actually get hospitalized, those who actually get to the ICU and those who die from COVID, majority of them are the unvaccinated.
Mhm.
What do you think of that?
It kind of pains me to see that they have to pass just because they're very against a vaccine that's saving lives, you know? I've actually dealt with 2 patients back in my externship again. I had a 40-year-old woman that was fully vaccinated that was admitted, and then I had a 40-year-old male that was unvaccinated. And the lady stayed in the med surge floor for about like 3 days after treatment, and the man that I was also helping with the nurse was in that floor for about 2 months already with high flow oxygen. And while I was talking to him and just like helping him eat or, whatever he needs, we got into a conversation and him saying that he actually regretted not getting the vaccine. So it's kind of sad to see that people are dying, people are getting really, really, really sick just because they were just against that, against the vaccination.
Did the patient make it? The 40-year-old guy?
I don't know because it was towards the end of my extern, but every time I saw him, he kind of looked better. He wasn't really desatting as much, but he was definitely in high flow for like a good amount of time.
So, Andy, in your conversation with that patient who was not vaccinated and got sick from it, and he shared to you that he is regretful and that how he wished he was vaccinated, did he share that view with other people?
I think he definitely talks to his family a lot. Every time when I went inside that patient's room, he would be in FaceTime with his wife. He definitely tells them we should probably get vaccinated and the kids, and he would tell his extended family too, because we were having a long conversation, and he was really like, I saw it in his eyes how regretful and how sad he was, and I'm pretty sure he definitely told his family and friends and extended family to probably get vaccinated so that they don't end up like him in high flow oxygen.
Did you ever experience wherein PPEs are short? There was shortage of PPEs during the time that you were working as a nurse, as a nursing student?
Yes. My school actually just gives us one N95 mask for 12 clinical rotations. So that definitely already shows you that the shortage is really, really serious. Like one N95 throughout my whole semester. So, we had to work with what we had. We can't really ask the hospitals to give us N95, so we just had to reuse that for the whole semester. And I think that's also happening this semester. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the classroom now, you're gonna be going back for face-to-face lectures, right? So is masking in the classroom mandatory for your school?
Yes, and social distancing for at least 3 feet.
And social distancing.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? And how does your classmates feel about that?
I'm okay because last semester we had one class that was in person. We had to wear a mask, and we had class in like a huge cafeteria, so everybody was distanced a good amount, like about 3 feet. So, and it was comfortable enough to talk to somebody next to you, and it was just like, I think just as long as you had your mask, you're going to be fine. And I'm okay with that idea of just mask, social distance, in person because I've already had it last semester. So the transition wouldn't be as bad.
And your classmates, how do they feel about it?
Um, uh, I don't think I've ever heard anybody complain about it. They were definitely just like, oh, I have to go back to school, like transport, taking the train again. But I don't think they were really bothered by the fact that we had to wear masks because I don't think everybody had a problem with wearing masks. So, yeah.
So, let's flip the role. Instead of us asking your question, what do you have any questions for us that could hopefully help you in your nursing goal, if you will?
Okay.
So we have 75 years of experience.
Combined.
Manny has the more. Oh, I'm kidding.
I definitely do also want to ask, why did you guys want to be nurses? I feel like because everybody has a unique story to tell.
Mindy, you start.
You want me to
Yes,
start?
Miss Mindy, go ahead.
I will be very honest with you. I didn't want to be
It's
a
your
nurse.
mom, huh? Your mom forced you to be a nurse.
My mom forced me. I wanted to become an actress. I'm not kidding.
Okay.
I when I was in high school, I was a member of the drama club. I was a member of Glee Club. Was trying to audition for a part in being an actress. My mom said there's no money there. Look at your aunties, because I was surrounded with aunties that are all nurses.
All the titas.
And one of them is actually was here in the United States. And so she said, no, you're going to become a nurse. I'm a very obedient daughter. I'm an only child, an obedient daughter. And I said, okay, whatever. So here I am, a nurse.
Do you like
Thank
it though?
you. May she rest in peace.
Do you like it? Do you like being a nurse?
Yes, I did. And first, when I was in first clinical exposure that I had, because I graduated at University of Santo Tomas, I felt like I felt like a maid. I was doing beds, I was giving urinas, and I just feel like let me find why this career is going to be good for me. And I did. The teaching, the seeing of patients that came sick and going home well was actually a fulfillment. And when they come, and one experience that I had was there's this patient never had prenatal, no prenatal during her pregnancy, and because of my teaching, you know what? She came to the clinic and started having her prenatal classes, and those are the fulfillment. And I said, okay, I will be a nurse. So anyway, many more, all those many years as an experience as a nurse.
Yeah, it's the same
Now,
thing for
Manny,
me.
your turn.
Yeah, it's the same thing for me. But my aunt, who was living in New York at the time, encouraged me. This Manny, do you want to come to the USA? And I said, yeah, of course. He says, well, why don't you become a nurse? I said, nurse? Well, that's one way to be able to come here. So I applied to the College of Nursing, right? And got accepted. And when I got there, and actually, just like Mindy, during your first encounter with the patients, I found that I actually liked nursing. So I completed it, and actually, I had fun working with patients. Our clinicals were held at the Philippine General Hospital, and if you've ever been there, you'd see how huge that hospital was. But I've always enjoyed working with patients, and now, of course, I teach. I teach in this School of Nursing here at the Valencia College. Um, but yeah, I've actually, as soon as I had my first patient encounter, I said, yeah, I think I'm gonna love nursing, and I still do.
What do you guys think about the stereotype that Filipinos are always going to be not always, but Filipinos are nurses.
I love it.
Mm.
Who cares if I'm stereotyped?
Mm.
Because what is part of being a nurse is that we are considered the most respected profession, if you will, for
And
the
the most
past
trusted.
11 years.
Mm.
Yes, and the compassion and caring that we provide for our patients, making sure that every day those patients are giving the best care ever. I don't care if they stereotype us
Mhm.
as Filipinos as being a nurse. It doesn't matter.
Very
We
true.
made a difference in the healthcare industry here in the
Mhm.
United States. So they can say whatever they want to say. Yes, I'm a nurse.
It's an honor. It's an honor, and it's a
Yeah.
privilege to be a
Mm.
nurse. To be the part, of a patient's life. You're there with that patient. We are the healthcare professional who is with that patient 24/7. Everybody else leaves, when the office hours are gone,
Mhm.
but the
Mhm.
nurse is there 24/7 with that patient.
Mhm.
And not only, I mean, nurses are everywhere, right? Not only just in the hospitals, they are in these long term care facilities, in the assisted living facilities, in the community, in the health clinics. We're everywhere.
Mhm.
And nursing as a profession has really grown. I mean, we now have nurse practitioners, nurse anesthetists, we have
Mhm.
researchers, scientists. To be known, Filipinos as nurses, belonging to one of the most noble and greatest profession is an honor, and to be part
Mhm.
of this field, this group of professionals is an honor. And once they see a Filipino and they say you must be a nurse, that is an honor to be, known to
Yes.
be so.
Yes. So I'm personally thinking of going back to school for graduate school. I don't know of what yet. So I'd like to ask if you guys also went back for your master's or you guys went to graduate school.
I did. Well, I went back to graduate school. There's two when I had a choice.
Mhm.
Am I going to be in clinical and am I going to be going in
Mhm.
leadership? I chose to be in leadership, and the fulfillment of making a difference in the standards of nursing practice, being able to say that to some of the nurses in a nursing facility. So I took my master's. I took my master's of science in nursing administration
Mhm.
track. I got it at University of Southern California. So yes, I had a great mentor. She was my CEO, and she says, "Okay, Mindy, I'm promoting you as such and such role, but you gotta go for your
Mm.
master's." Got challenged, but I finished it. My only regret is I didn't go for my doctorate degree. I should have
You
gone.
still can?
Yes, my only regret.
Still
So,
can?
but they say, "Hey, Mindy,
Mindy, you look
it's never
young.
too late." So,
Very young.
huh?
You look
What?
very young. You still can do it. There's
Oh,
no
thank you
age
so
when it comes
much.
to education, you know? Always gotta learn.
Thank you, Andy. You hear that, Manny?
Yes,
There's
yeah,
no.
There's
never
no
too
age.
late.
Yeah, you
Right,
always
right.
Yeah,
learn
that's true.
something.
But that was my only regret.
Uh-uh.
Yes.
Yeah, the same as for me. I completed my master's degree as well. I have an MSN,
Mm.
and that is in education and leadership. And right now, I'm in school, back to school. I'm doing
See?
my Doctor of Nursing Practice
Wow.
program at William Patterson University.
Oh, is that
So,
in
yeah,
New Jersey?
New Jersey.
Yes,
Yeah,
I think that's near me. It's William Patterson.
yeah.
Yes.
There you go. Good, a great school.
Uh,
Yes.
just for a follow-up question, how did you guys know that this was the master this type of
Track.
track, thank you, master track that you guys wanted? Because I feel like I would want to go back to school, but I don't know, like I don't know what
Mm.
track I would want.
That's what as I was referring a while ago. Am I going to be in clinical, wherein you can be a nurse anesthetist, you can be CNS, clinical nurse specialist, and other clinical practice track. I chose to be in the leadership. So to be in leadership, your track has to be Masters of Science in Nursing majoring in nursing administration. So that's where I chose to be, because that's where I wanted to be in nursing leadership. Not that I don't want to be in the bedside, but I prefer to be able to lead, if you will, and make a difference, as I've mentioned a while ago, to the nursing practice standards.
Right. Yeah. So hopefully, while you were a student, you were already seeing the different specialties and perhaps giving you some ideas as to what type of specialty will you be pursuing. If not, as soon as you enter the workforce, you still have that opportunity to explore and find out more. Which field are you going to specialize in? As far as the track for your higher degrees, like your master's degrees and your doctoral degrees, you can continue to explore that while you will be at the workforce. And I think also, once you start to work, right, your network will definitely widen. And do not forget, here's a plug to join PNAA, because at PNAA, you will meet all of these nursing professionals who are in all different types of specialties and fields. And that is a very good organization to actually, know more people like Mindy and me.
Yes, yes, of course.
Yes.
And Dr. Dia,
Dr.
that you
Dia,
have as
yeah.
a mentor,
Yes.
Dr. Dia, yes.
I was actually gonna join like about 2 weeks ago, but then I soon found out you can't join unless you're an actual registered nurse. So I'll probably join as soon as I pass that NCLEX. So I was
Very
actually
good.
gonna join. To the new graduates such as me, what advice would you give to the new nurses that's we're going through this pandemic? What would be the advice that you would give?
Be resilient. Always think of why did you become a nurse, and obviously it's taking care of those patients. Be compassionate. Think big, if you will, and have the choice that you want. And then I'm an ICU nurse. I didn't become a leader right away. I chose the track of becoming an ICU nurse. So feel the patient care first, and then find out what you really want, what is important to you, what is that is going to make you a fulfillment. But during this pandemic, be resilient. Be kind to some of our nurses or your co-students who's having a hard time, and just be there, and seek help. There's really need for us to seek help. Even me, there are many strategies that I have to read so that I'll be able to not feel depressed. So there was a period of time that I was not listening to any COVID news, because that was one of the strategy. So for me, that's what you need to do. And if you feel you gotta reach out, and then I will echo what Manny say: reach out to individuals that who will really actually give you the support.
Yeah. Well, you went through nursing school in a very special time, which was COVID.
Yeah.
So we know that there were limitations during that time, but I'm not worried. I know that's easy for me to say because I'm not the person, right, entering the workforce, but you are very young, and young people, they're like a sponge. They absorb everything very, very quickly. But just like Mindy said, I know that the hospitals are aware, and any of the other facilities where nurses go and join the workforce, of the limitations that you had during that COVID. And they have been preparing for this, and they are preparing for it, and they're doing everything that they can to make sure that graduates, nursing graduates who went to school during the time of COVID will need something, right, to make sure that they will be prepared to do their job and to stay in the workforce. So just like Mindy said, don't be afraid to reach out. And that's what they are there for. They are there to support you. But at the same manner, I think that you need to be also have a voice for yourself and ask questions, ask for help. Um, it is a very difficult time right now in healthcare, so caring for each other and caring for yourself, right, should be the biggest thing. I know we as nurses always tend to care for others,
Mm-hmm.
but do not forget to care for yourself. So, and that being our nature, caring, I think you'll do well. So don't forget to care for yourself, but also care for each other.
Yes, thank you.
And that is all that we have for this episode. I want to thank our guests, Andy Cuadra, my co host, Mindy Ofiana, our director and producer, Radni Cahudo, Caro Robles, PNAA Chair for Communications and Marketing, our advisors, PNAA Foundation President Nancy Hoff, and our executive producers, PNAA President Dr. Mary Joy Garcia Dia and PNAA Executive Director Carmina Bautista. Join us every Wednesday here on Rise Up. Until then, keep on rising. See you next week. This publication was made possible by Cooperative Agreement CDC RFA IP 21-2106 from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Its contents are solely the responsibility of the authors and do not necessarily represent the official views of CDC HHS.